Let's talk about hand drill fire making. I sell tested hand drill fire kits like this. Every kit is tested to make sure that it's, a decent kit, that it has made fire. If you're learning the materials in a new area and you just have whatever you've gathered, how do you know if the problem is you, that you're not getting a fire, or if it's the kit? So that's why I sell these kits. And they come with like a little instruction handout. So every time I get an order, unless I've, which is, I almost never make them ahead of time, I have to make them. So I thought I'd use this opportunity to just talk a little bit about hand drill fire making. This isn't going to be like a full treatment. I'm going to refer you to some other content, in particular a video that I did where I just went down into a dry creek bed and gathered what I could, made stone tools and everything and made a fire this way. Today I want to talk a little bit about theory and technique and just some important stuff about hand drill fire making, some of which is I really don't hear anywhere else. This is probably the most common fire making method around the world. We have two pieces, a drill, a hearth, very simple. This has a little divot so that this will spin in one place and start to heat up and burn. There's a small notch right here, and the friction between these two woods is going to create a fine charred powder that's going to fall into this notch. It's going to reach a critical temperature, and then it's going to start to combust, and it won't burst into flame. It's just going to make like a little ember, and that ember is going to grow until it kind of takes over a lot of that pile of fine dust, and then that is what you take and dump into tinder, and you have to blow on it and everything to get a fire. But that's usually the easy part, at least once you're experienced with it. It's not always easy the first time you do it. I'm just going to put a little piece of something under here to catch the coal. Number one, when you're learning this skill, it's good to do this with a friend. Do it with a partner if you've never done it before and you're just learning. If one of you starts to do it well and starts to get it, it will rub off on the other person, and then that kind of will build between you, because we learn a lot more visually than we think. You can't really think your way through this process completely. A lot of what I'm going to give you today is actually intellectual knowledge, and it is helpful, but at the end of the day it comes down to this sort of muscle coordination. It's like a basketball player isn't thinking about every tiny muscle movement to get the ball into the hoop. It just flows, and it's all subconscious or muscle memory or something like that. So that's the more important part of it, and you can learn a lot by working with someone else, especially if they already know how to do it. But even if they don't, it's quite difficult, so trading off with a partner can really help. Another thing to do, and I would do this if I really needed a fire and I was out in the woods and I only had a few chances and I didn't want to wear myself out without getting a fire. I could, you can end up with blisters very fast doing this. I would do a few warm-up passes. So when I get up in the morning, I don't immediately try to do 30 push-ups, right? I do maybe 10 squats, 5 push-ups, a couple of pull-ups, and then I sit and meditate. It just primes your muscles. It gets the blood flow going. It tells your body, okay, it's time to wake up. It gets, it's just like any warm-up for any exercise. So just do a couple of passes, 2 or 3 passes, and just get all that stuff working, get it used to moving, and then come back and make your final push. This drill has a crooked end, but I think it's okay. I could probably take off a ½ inch. If you need to cut a drill, a good way to do it is just to set your knife on the spot you want to cut, and you roll it back and forth like this. And you can go pretty deep. You can actually go all the way through doing this, but usually you do it for a while, and then you snap it off. This is really short, so I don't really have any leverage to snap it. Obviously, be very careful doing this on your leg. I feel confident that I have enough control, and it'll snap off a really nice clean snap, and it will be perfectly squared off to to the shaft. You can't do that crooked. Like, it has to be flat, so it'll be pretty much perfectly flat. Good trick. So how this process works is you're applying downward pressure, right, this way. So let's say I apply downward pressure. I'm applying energy. I'm using energy. This isn't going to do anything, right? It needs to be moving. So let's say that I move it super, super fast, but there's almost no downward pressure. That's never going to make any smoke at all. So we're looking at an interplay between these two factors: downward pressure applied with the palms, and that's a little difficult while this is moving. That's one of the main things that you are learning when you learn this skill. But the stick should be tapered too. Like, if you use a dowel that's not tapered, you can actually tell the difference, and it's not great. So you do want a little bit of taper to the stick. These two factors, speed and downward pressure, can be traded one for the other to an extent. And you can also at times apply just a ton of both. But there's reasons that you would not always want to do that. One reason is that you'll wear out really quick. And some really soft materials will make a really coarse, they'll just wear out too fast under too much pressure, and they'll make a coarse powder that's not charred enough. You're making a charred powder that's prime and really ready to just burn. And if you have soft materials and you just go for it too hard and you're pushing really hard, you'll grind out this big, coarse, like light brown colored powder. So if you see that, you want to lighten up on the pressure and go back to the speed. So what I'm saying is you can kind of, like, depending on the conditions, you sort of trade one for the other to an extent. Now, what I never hear anyone talk about, and it's critical, is that pressure needs to be consistent. And this is the thing that goes wrong when you see, I remember trying to teach friends this who were like bigger than me, right? Bigger, more muscular than me, and just day after day couldn't get it. It's just about efficient use of energy. And the main thing that's going on, well, there's a few things, but one of the main things that's going on is this invisible variation of the pressure. You don't need that much pressure or that much speed if the pressure is very consistent. Without you being able to see it, that pressure can be like lifting, like varying like this. And you may see it, like you may see the board bouncing up and down. You may see this barely lift, and in extreme circumstances, you'll see the drill actually jump out, and you never obviously want that. That's a trick, because you're looking at moving your hands while at the same time maintaining downward pressure without letting it up. And that's really why this skill can be difficult to learn. I'm going to use kind of like an in-between pressure and speed to get this warmed up, and then I'm going to demonstrate to you that you can get smoke and often fire, depending on the circumstances in the kit, by using just extreme pressure and low speeds, or low pressure and high speeds. But in both cases, that pressure remaining consistent is a major factor, and you want to pay attention to that. So let's just kind of warm this kit up. I tend to set like this. A lot of people don't like it. It isn't quite as efficient as like being on your knees. And you can put like a board, something like this, on the board, and then put your knee on this, so you can kneel like back here and still hold the board down. So that's one way to do it. I usually do it this way, so I need to get my foot over here so that camera can see what's going on. So again, I'm going to use kind of a combination of moderate speed and moderate pressure to get it smoking, and then I want to demonstrate going very, very slow with high pressure and very fast with low pressure. So we'll just start with a few warm-up passes. This drill is like moving around a lot because I actually started it with a bigger drill, but it'll get hot and burning. Also, this may not be easy because these materials have been stored in my kitchen trailer where it's quite damp. Like, to give you an idea, the matches are hard to strike in there because they're damp. Okay, it's starting to settle into one place, but it's still kind of wobbling around a bunch. Okay, so now it's going. So I'm going to do like high speed, low pressure. But again, consistent pressure. You can see I'm getting smoke. If I keep this up for a while, there's a good chance I'll get a coal. Let's go even more speed and less pressure. Very light pressure, but it is pretty consistent. Okay, and now I'm going to go extremely slow, but extremely hard. And look at that. There's still smoke. I mean, I'm pushing really hard. Now I'm going to do quite a bit of both and see if we can get a coal. I think I have one, but one last push. I think I had it several passes ago, but sometimes you can't tell, and every second you're sitting there looking to see, you know, it's kind of cooling off. So I expended way more energy there than I needed to get that coal, just with all that like screwing around and demonstrating. But I could have gone for quite a while longer. But if you are dealing with difficult materials or circumstances, like, you want to strategize a little bit and really warm the kit up with a lot of like light passes that don't take a lot of energy. Get it smoking really well, and then depending on the kit and circumstances, you may want to do like a moderate, fairly high pressure with a lot of speed, or in some cases you really just have to you know, high pressure and high speed. It just depends. Okay, so I don't have any tender here, so we're not gonna turn this into a coal or turn this into an actual fire, but you can see. And then you put that in your tender and blow. While we're here, I've done a lot of demonstrations of this at different events. I've taught it a lot at, you know, weekend courses and stuff like that. Real common question is, how long does it take? How many passes? That's like totally dependent on so many factors. Under good conditions, with a really good kit, warmed up, like during periods of my life where I'm doing this a lot, you know, I could get fires in like coals in one pass down the drill. The other thing that helps with that, and the reason it helps to be doing it a lot, is that there's a technique called floating. And in the extreme, you know, floating can be just like, you can drill in one place. It's kind of a motion like this, but it's quite difficult. And even though I know how to do it, like, I need to be warmed up and in practice to actually do it. So there's everything between, you know, just working quickly down the drill without floating at all, like making it take longer to get down the drill. And I've even known someone that could make fires going up the drill. Okay, so you're maintaining this pressure, and it's this sort of rolling motion like that. And I've never even tried to learn that. It doesn't interest me that much, but it's pretty cool. In order to make one-pass fires, it's almost like cheating, because you're really kind of floating a little bit to like make it take longer to get to the bottom of the drill. But let's just see, if I really try to dial in my technique, how many passes I can get a coal in. And I'm gonna have to stop and check too. You notice I'll lick my hands once in a while. Like, if this is really dry and your hands are dry and you've been drilling a lot, it won't catch. So often it helps to have a little moisture there. There we go, one pass. So these kits I send out, they work. They're not all this good, but you know, they're all good and they all work. So now you know, if you get a kit from me, it's been tested and it's made at least one, usually just one fire. Check out the other video. It has a little bit more details in actually making the kit. I'll link it in the video description and right here or here, wherever it is. I can't remember because it's been so long since I made videos. These are available on my website, SkillCult.com. I'm kind of running low on drills, so I don't know how many I'll have. If they're listed, then I have them. And if they're not, check back in 6 months or a year and maybe they'll be back, maybe not.